Liverpool are Premier League champions, but everything is changing. The pre-season wasn't just about fitness or friendlies, it was a glimpse into what the new Arne Slot era is going to look like at Liverpool. With so many key players sold like Trent Alexander-Arnold and Luis Diaz, and so many fresh faces brought in like Florian Wirtz and Milos Kerkez, this summer was all about adjustment, tactically, mentally and physically. Liverpool kicked off the pre-season, and to summarise their pre-season for you, they kicked it off with a victory against Preston. They won a behind closed doors friendly against Stoke. Then they lost to AC Milan, which was very surprising, but they bounced back with wins against Yokohama, and then finally 2 victories against Athletic Bilbao. But beyond the results, this pre-season revealed a lot. Slot used this time to test a lot of different systems, to test a lot of different roles for his players, and finally give some time to our academy stars so that they have a real chance to shine. And that's honestly my favourite part, watching Liverpool's young talents step into the team, showing what they're made of and showing how they can adapt alongside the experienced players, giving them the spotlight so that they can really show what they're made of. And I'll dive into it later why I was so impressed by the academy players. Now, if you followed Arne Slot at Feyenoord for a while, or even last season at Liverpool, you know he is not fixated to one system. He adapts. Depending on the opposition, depending on the game state, Liverpool's system can change. And now with new players brought in, he can do this at a larger scale. So what did we actually learn from the pre-season? In this video, I'm going to break down the key tactical shifts that Arne Slot is making, the players that stood out and the ones who didn't, and what the future of this Liverpool team looks like from defence to midfield to attack as they begin their title defence. Now in front of you, I have set up a tactical board with every single player that has had some game time during pre-season, or if they are in this tactical board, it means that they could end up leaving at the end of the transfer window, and I want to discuss them. I've used James Alcott's tactical board, which he came up with last week. I think it's an absolutely fantastic thing that he's come up with, and I'll definitely be using it more in the future. We're going to start off with the goalkeepers, and of course Alisson Becker is Liverpool's #1 goalkeeper, and there is no doubt about that. But the one goalkeeper who's had his spotlight in this preseason is Mamardashvili. When Alisson is out, Mamardashvili is the #2. He's going to have a lot of game time this season, definitely, because he is an absolute unit in goal. He takes up so much of that goal. When there's shots coming in, his reactions, his shot stopping in general is absolutely fantastic. When crosses are coming in from the side and he's having to collect it from the top, he is ridiculously good at claiming his crosses as well. But on top of that, what I've been impressed with is those passes. I saw him play long passes all the way to the attack towards Federico Chiesa and putting him through on goal. And then when you need him to do the short passes to Joe Gomez, to Van Dijk or Konate, he's got that confidence to be able to play those passes. He is definitely someone who impressed me in this pre-season. But moving on, we got the right back, and there's 2 right backs here that we have, Conor Bradley and Jeremy Frimpong. And this is a massive debate right now. Who is going to start the season? And if I tell you right now who I think it is Jeremy Frimpong. I was so impressed by this guy in every single pre-season cameo I saw. At the start of the pre-season, we saw him playing more as a right winger than as a right back. But as soon as he played right back for Athletic Bilbao, coming up against a very strong winger in Nico Williams, I thought he was fantastic. And those are the type of performances you want, because when he was pushed up, he had that recovery pace to come back in here. And even Konate, a couple of times, he was moving out wide to cover for Frimpong, but he was confused because Frimpong had already caught up to Nico Williams defensively, so Konate could keep his space in this right centre-back role. And that is what's key. If Konate can stay here and Frimpong can cover his position good enough, then our defence will look solid regardless of Trent Alexander-Arnold being there or not. On top of that, I feel like with Conor Bradley, I think his defending is a bit overrated. I don't think he is as good at 1v1 as people make him out to be. There's many occasions where winger comes up against him, takes him 1v1, and he's quite slow to react. And in terms of going forward though, Arne Slot will use both of them a lot. The reason I say that is because Bradley is a carrier, but he prefers to carry more in the central position. So you'll see him move into these central positions. Salah stays wide, and then these two will have a good combination play to get Bradley moving forward. Whereas Jeremy Frimpong does a bit of both. He comes into this underlap with Mohamed Salah, but he can also overlap. And that is where I think Jeremy Frimpong is a bigger weapon than what Conor Bradley is. Because when he's 1v1 against this winger and he takes him line, he can produce some brilliant crosses like we saw for Trey and Leoni's goal in the pre-season. Then we move on to the centre-backs. And now, of course, this is something that I wanted to discuss for a different reason. We have a big problem in centre-back. We are lacking a centre-back. Let's be honest here. I've got 3 here. And I know Gravenberch can play here. And I know Wataru Endo can play here. But we are lacking a centre-back. Ibrahima Konate, of course, fantastic as always. Virgil van Dijk, fantastic as always. Having to be asked to bring that ball out. And I thought, highlighting Ibrahima Konate in this preseason, he has improved a lot. There was moments in the games against Athletic Bilbao where he was pinging passes towards Salah, he was pinging passes to Wirtz or Szoboszlai, and he was really getting involved in the build-up play, which is exactly what you want to see. Of course, these two are monsters. The problem with Joe Gomez is he's gotten injured again in preseason, which is a massive problem. We need him to be fit because right now he is the third choice centre-back, and I really do expect Liverpool to sign a centre-back, and I think it will be Mark Guehi by the end of the transfer window. I think they're waiting for that last week where they can really go for Mark Guehi and try to push that price down from Crystal Palace to about 35 million, which is the sweet spot for Liverpool. Then you're moving on to the left back position, and here we got Robertson, we got Kerkez and Tsimikas, and as you can see, that is a very stacked left back position. To be fair to Robertson, he played quite a few games at left centre back, but that's not something that I want to see. In my opinion, Kostas Tsimikas here, he needs to go. He shouldn't be in the squad. It should be Kerkez and Robertson. The first team left back is of course Milos Kerkez, who I thought was an absolute monster. We didn't see too much of the overlapping to Cody Gakpo. He did do it a few times. There was some underlapping, but what I was so impressed by was his defensive work rate. He was ridiculous. Some of the sliding challenges, some of the way he was winning the ball back and getting Liverpool forward again. And there were moments where you would see Van Dijk here and you would see Konate here, even though they didn't play together. This is where the centre backs were playing. And then Milos Kerkez will be that third centre-back in possession, which can be very useful for Liverpool because it allows Jeremy Frimpong to push up and be a winger, but it also allows Milos Kerkez, in terms of his defensive work rate, to be absolutely brilliant, because anytime a player was going on these wing positions here, Kerkez was already there winning the ball back for Liverpool. And of course, Andy Robertson, the leader. If you watch any of Liverpool's preseason videos, you can see just how much he integrates into the squad, how much he allows the new players to feel free in the squad, and how much everyone just respects him. So I feel like he is the perfect backup left back to Milos Kerkez, and both of them will be so important going into the season. Now let's move on to the midfield, where we saw one of the biggest tactical shifts in the midfield, and that is the use of the double pivot. Ryan Gravenberch, of course, the deepest lying playmaker in terms of our midfield. He's the one trusted as the defensive midfielder. He's the one who needs to cover these half spaces here as a defender, and in terms of getting the ball from the centre backs and really moving that ball forward for the team. And he has improved so much. I thought he had an excellent preseason again. His reading of the game has improved so much. He's getting so many interceptions. He's getting in the right places for tackles as well. And on the ball, we already know how good he is. When he opens that body up and dribbles past his opponents, he is ridiculous, and he is a very good carrier of the ball. But one thing that's impressed me that I really wanted to see from him in preseason this year was his line breaking passes. I thought he did them more consistently. He was finding Florian Wirtz in these positions. He was finding Mohamed Salah in these positions, which is where you want him to play that ball. Play that ball quickly towards the front line, and that is exactly what our defensive midfielder needs to do. But the star of the show in the midfield was definitely Dominik Szoboszlai. He was playing alongside Ryan Gravenberch as a number 8 in about this position here, playing on that left hand side, where I have always said is where his bias is towards. He likes to open his foot up and play passes. He doesn't like going across goal, and in terms of his defensive work rate, we already know how good that is. We saw him do that on this right hand side, covering for Mohamed Salah, covering for Trent Alexander-Arnold. But on this left hand side is where we see the real magic. He's already got chemistry with Kerkez from his country, but most important thing is he is allowing Liverpool to build up play whilst missing Trent Alexander-Arnold from the lineup. We already know how important Trent was in terms of playing those passes towards the wingers, towards Mohamed Salah down the line, or even breaking the lines in the midfield. But that's what Szoboszlai is doing now. He's coming deep, he's breaking the lines with absolute ease. Sometimes he's switching the play to Mohamed Salah, which is exactly what you want from your double pivot. Someone who's brave on the ball, and then he's also shown great composure. So that is definitely something that is positive going into the season. The fact that we have another option in that double pivot in Dominik Szoboszlai. But of course, right now I have him down as a backup 10, just because this monster here, Alexis McAllister, who I believe is Liverpool's best midfielder, who brings perfect balance to the team. His defensive work rate is insane. He's so strong in his duels. If you want him to move that ball forward, he's very confident in his passing. He He's better facing towards goal than he is back to goal, which is why I don't want to see him as the deepest lying midfielder, and I want to see him more as the number 8 who pushes forward. But I think in general, he is definitely a starter in this team. So now the question is going to be going into the season, who starts alongside him? Will it be Szoboszlai or will it be Gravenberch? Because Wirtz and McAllister are definitely two of the midfielders who have to start. Moving on to the other midfielders who can play in this double pivot, we obviously have Wataru Endo, who can cover Ryan Gravenberch. I don't think he can be a starter because he's not fast enough, he's not quick enough, but he does have defensive capabilities, which is why we've seen him cover centre-back as well. In general, he's the perfect squad player to have in the squad because he provides experience and he provides a level head when you need to see out a game. That leaves me with Curtis Jones, which is an interesting one. I think there's pressure on him to have a big season this year because next summer he could be sold for an Adam Wharton. And the reason I say that is because this is the summer and season where we really need to see him push towards this first team lineup and be consistent game in, game out. And I think he has something that no other player has in our midfield. And that is the ability to slow the game down, to have confidence with the ball at his feet, to retain possession, to be able to hold his man off, play the ball back and make sure Liverpool keep possession. He's actually a really good controller in midfield, and of course he can cover this number 10 position, he can cover the number 6 position if needed, but I would say he is most comfortable being that LCM alongside where Alexis McAllister plays and where now we know Dominic Szoboszlai can play. And then moving on to what we have in the background, Tyler Morton is of course off to Lyon. He has already been sold at the time of recording this video. I think he's an excellent footballer, but according to Arne Slot, he has now been replaced by Trey and Leoni, and this is a midfielder that I am excited by. He's only 18 years old, but if you watch the temperament that he plays with, he is a joke. He reminds me of a baby Ryan Gravenberch. The way he breaks the lines, the way he was able to play centre-back the other day and done it so comfortably, done it with so much maturity, the way he's able to link up the play with his forward players, push up the pitch and really get involved in the play. This kid is going to the very top as long as he develops with the team. The other player I was interested in was Stefan Bacecic. Of course, he's still injured, but he is a player that going into the season, he might actually come into the squad and he can be a good option in the double pivot if needed. But I think he should be going out on loan, getting some consistent minutes and trying to get his career right back on track. And that leaves me with the monster of them all, and that is Florian Wirtz, Liverpool's new number 10, who is absolutely incredible. He is one of my favourite players in the world before he signed for Liverpool, and now that he signed for Liverpool, I can see exactly how good he is. I can appreciate how good he is. He is a ridiculous footballer. In terms of his technical quality, he is a joke. His first touch is always sharp. His close control is so good. The 1-2 link-up plays that we saw Salah and Wirtz have in those first 2 or 3 games, you could already see what is going to happen. But on top of that, he has such intelligence going forward. There was a moment in the Bilbao game where a cross came in and it was him making that deep run into the box, that second man run into the box, winning the header and almost scoring. But then he also has that defensive work rate that you need from a Liverpool player. Arne Slot will absolutely love him, and I will absolutely love watching him play week in, week out. Then there's of course Harvey Elliott as well, but I expect him to leave before the end of the transfer window. Unfortunately, he didn't impress in pre-season. In my opinion, he was one of those who needed to have a good preseason. He didn't, in my opinion, and I think by the end of the transfer window, he will be joining a new club, and I really hope he does well because I'm a big fan of Harvey Elliott. He's a big fan of Liverpool, and he's always given 100% to the club. So that is the midfield done as well. Let's move to the front line, and this is where it gets quite tricky for Liverpool. Of course, now I've got Darwin Núñez here, but at the time of recording this, he has left for Al Hilal, so he is no longer here, unfortunately, because I really wanted him to do well for Liverpool, and I think he had his moments, good moments for Liverpool, he had his bad moments for Liverpool, but it was the right time and the right price to let him go. So we're going to start with, of course, Mohamed Salah. I think he's going to have an absolutely insane season again. And the reason I say that is because he's taken a creative role in this team. I've already seen in pre-season, he is playing Messi-like passes from right wing. And he's not just stuck here. When Frimpong is playing, Frimpong is going out wide here. And Salah's coming inside. And I'm seeing him play these crossfield passes to Cody Gakpo at the back post. Or even Hugo Ekitike, who's making the run inside the box. And some of these passes I am watching, he deserves better. He deserves assists. This guy is going to be a creative outlet this season. and he will of course still find goals because he always finds himself in this part of the box and he finishes off his chances. I'm not going to say any more about Mohamed Salah because we already know how great he is. Then going on that left-hand side, we have Cody Gakpo as the main left winger for now. And in my opinion, he deserves to be the main left winger. I think he's quite underrated in this fan base because he doesn't have that 1v1 ability against his markers. He doesn't like taking his marker towards the outside. He has one thing that he loves to do, and that's cut inside on his rifle, which can be predictable. But when you're as good as Cody Gakpo is at doing that, then what is the problem? He cuts inside, he gets himself towards goal, he's always making brilliant chances for himself, he's ending games with 1 or 2 goals. Not everyone needs to be a technical monster. Some players are there to do their job, and Cody Gakpo does exactly that. He gets his goals. So I'm quite happy with Cody Gakpo being the main left winger. The problem we have is we've lost Luis Diaz, so we don't have a backup left winger. But Rio Ngumoa has had an incredible preseason. Probably the best preseason for Liverpool that I have seen from a young kid in a little while. He reminds me a lot of Raheem Sterling, but he's a little bit more ready-made than Raheem Sterling was at this age. When you see his dribbling ability, when you see his confidence, there was a moment the other day against Bilbao, Curtis Jones had the ball here and Ngumoa was right next to him. He took the ball off Curtis Jones, who's an experienced player in this team, took it forward, brought it to about this area, opened his body up and finished the ball into the bottom corner. It was absolutely incredible from Ngumoa. He scored a few goals, he created some, but it's that 1v1 dribbling ability, the ability to take his man outside and inside that Cody Gakpo can't do, that makes him a perfect backup left winger. So I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool go into the season with Ngumoa as the backup left winger. But that means we have 4 main attackers here, which I think is going to be a bit of a problem. I don't think we can have 4. We need more. And of course, Alexander Isak has been linked to the team and he would be a brilliant striker to have, and Hugo Ekitike can probably cover left wing and then be a backup striker, but we need to get a massive deal done, whether that's Isak, whether that's Rodrigo, or whether that's Barcola. One more main attacker needs to be signed. As for Ben Doak, I thought he had an impressive preseason as well. His 1v1 ability is very good. He's someone that is very impressive, who can take you outside or inside, and it's come out recently that if Liverpool don't get a 20-25 million bid for him, they don't mind keeping him, and I don't mind keeping him as a backup to Mohamed Salah either. But just overall, as you can see from the whole squad, there's still a couple of positions that we need, like a centre back, and I've explained this previously, like a striker, maybe a left winger. But overall, you can see how this team has lined up in pre-season, and now we're going to touch a little bit on what I believe Arne Slot's tactics is going to look like, and what I believe Arne Slot is going to push this Liverpool team to be in the new season. Here's the truth. In my opinion, Arne Slot is not fixated into a system. It is very fluid. He doesn't have a rigid system that he really sticks to. It's all about fluidity, it's all about movement, and it's all about rotation. And in my opinion, players are trusted to move. Players are trusted to understand space. They're trusted to understand the tactical setups that Arne Slot has depending on game states. Take the fullbacks, for example. Jeremy Frimpong sometimes might overlap Mohamed Salah. Sometimes he might underlap Mohamed Salah, depending on where the space is and depending on what Mohamed Salah's role in this team for that game is. And then also same with Milos Kerkez on the other side. You might see him be a left centre back in possession with Van Dijk and Konate here, but other times you might see him overlapping Cody Gakpo and providing opportunities for him to cut back the ball to Ekitike. That is the type of fluidity that Arne Slot really wants in this team. And then you look at the double pivot, which is going to be very, very important into this season. They need to be able to collect that ball from Van Dijk, collect that ball from Konate, turn on the ball and really drive into space. Find Florian Wirtz in these half spaces. Find Mohamed Salah out wide, 1v1 against his marker. And if Mohamed Salah does get the ball out wide, you expect, if it's Dominic Szoboszlai or Gravenberch, to make that run ahead of Mohamed Salah so that he can either find you or it opens up space for Mohamed Salah. And these are the type of rotations and fluidity that Liverpool will be looking at. There's going to be triangles all over the pitch. I expect Frimpong to really support this front three, and you're going to see these three create a triangle on this side. You're going to see Milos Kerkez move towards here, Florian Wirtz come towards this section here, and you're going to see like a triangle here. You're going to see a lot of movements. You're going to see a lot of rotations. This Liverpool team is not fixated to positions. You're not just going to see Florian Wirtz as a 10 or Ekitike as a 9 like we saw in that Bilbao game. Even though he was the striker, you saw him push out towards this left-hand side, take his man on 1v1 and cut the ball out to Mohamed Salah. And these are the type of rotations that you really need. And one thing that I've noticed during preseason training and during the games is that Liverpool are trying to create cutback situations. They're trying to get Frimpong in this position here. Ekitike comes towards here and takes his man towards the box, and Florian Wirtz is here, standing here. The ball comes towards him from Frimpong, and Wirtz has an easy cutback opportunity. These are the type of things Liverpool are trying to create, and they're trying to create some sort of repetition in the team, but at the same time, Arne Slot doesn't want to take away the freedom of the players, and that is intentional because he understands that sometimes players know better on the pitch. They understand how the opposition team is trying to line up against them, and they can create a reaction towards that and get Liverpool scoring and winning games. And of course, it's not all smooth sailing because as we saw against AC Milan, they had a very, very good left winger in Rafael Leao, and he was able to use the spaces that was created from Konate and Van Dijk being so pushed up and attack that left half space and cause Liverpool problems. But to wrap it all up, here are my key takeaways from the preseason. At right back, it's going to be Jeremy Frimpong for me over Conor Bradley. Dominic Szoboszlai has to be a starter in this team, and he's going to be one of the two in the double pivot. Salah will be taking up more of a creative role, but he will still be the main man of this team. And Cody Gakpo is definitely good enough to be Liverpool's main left winger, which is why they were happy to let Luis Diaz go. With Arne Slot at the helm and exciting new options over the gaff, with Alexander Isak maybe joining, maybe Mark Guehi joining in the back line, even maybe Rodrigo or Barcola who have been linked to Liverpool, this is going to be a very exciting team for Liverpool. It's going to be a very exciting season for Liverpool, who will be looking to win the Premier League, the Champions League, and the absolute lot. So if you enjoyed this deep dive into what I believe we learned from Liverpool's preseason, don't forget to like the video, comment your thoughts on Liverpool's preseason down below, and subscribe for more. Hit the notification bell so you know whenever I upload. Thanks for watching, and peace.